Welcome back, everybody, to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to be taking a look at current crowdfunding projects for the month of April. Again, this is not an extensive list of everything on Kickstarter or Gamefound. This is just simply what I have my eye on based upon, my gaming preferences and what I feel like my audience might enjoy. So let's go ahead and get started here with Robinson Crusoe, the Collector's Edition. Right off the bat, this is not a new game. This is not a new entry necessarily into the game. This is the Collector's Edition is a remake of the classic game, but in a super blinged out fashion of the game. So they're adding miniatures. You can see they've added this shelter miniature that is probably one of the most talked about aspects of the game. We'll see if we can find a picture of it here, but it allows you, here it is, it's modular. So as you build up your shelter, as you add levels of your roof and your palisades, you actually add onto the miniature. So you start off with just this basic hut, and then you add the palisades around it, and you add more roof levels and things like that. And so you're probably not going to see all of it. I rarely build up my entire hut during the game, but I guess there might be a scenario out there that I haven't played yet that requests, or that's kind of the goal of the game, is to build up your scenario. But the biggest things that they are adding here, along with some just ridiculous, like this dice tower volcano, is that they are adding miniatures to the game, but then they are also have, which you can pledge separately, is this book of adventure. This book of adventure is essentially, the number is growing now. It's like 50 plus now, different scenarios that you can play for Robinson Crusoe. And so you can see right here, you can actually pledge this on its own. And for some people, this may be enough. If you've got the base game or you've got all the content and you don't care about the miniatures or all the bling, then just getting the book of adventures, which they continue to add scenarios to it via stretch goals, is going to give you more content for this game than you probably could possibly ever play. And I think that's what I'm most excited about here, is the Book of Adventures, because what's so awesome, in my opinion, about Robinson Crusoe is how the scenarios tweak the game enough each time that it feels like a different experience. It is a tough experience. It is a survival game. In my opinion, best played by yourself, so you can do all the analysis paralysis on your own and make all those heavy decisions. But they have basically just expanded everything that is great about Robinson Crusoe, and then added all of this bling content if you are really into the game. The last thing they've added is this open and play campaign. Robinson Crusoe has historically been a tough game to get out of the box and play. The rule book is very thick, very heavy. And this is essentially like almost a Jaws of the Lion style setup, where you flip open and the map is right there. You don't have to set up the board. And they walk you through step by step everything you should be doing in your first few turns. So really helps people who need to, who are going to be learning the game for the first time. One other thing that I really love about what they've done with the Book of Adventures here is that they have organized it in a way that you can determine. Let's see if I can find where they talk about it. Here's a whole bunch of add-ons. Again, this is just more bling that you don't necessarily need, but some people may be really excited about. Is that they've organized the Book of Adventures in a way that you can say, oh, I'm playing with my kids today. Let me find all the kids scenarios. And you don't have to know them all by heart. Or, ooh, I really want an easy scenario today. I'm going to be, playing with some new people, and I don't want this. So you can see they've broken it up by genre: adventure, historical, fantasy, sci-fi. I didn't even know there were sci-fi ones available. Easy, medium, and hard. Short, long, painful, and then target audience. I think this is just a really nice addition. They could have just thrown 50 in there alphabetically, or even thrown 50 scenarios in there from hardest to easiest. But the fact that I could go in and say, ooh, this one's kind of kids oriented. This will be a great jumping off point for my 8-year-old who is interested in the game. Or ooh, it's Halloween time. I want to play one that's kind of horror themed. I'm going to play one of the adult oriented ones. So just really nice additions to what is already a really great game, easily in my top 10 all time. So check it out. This one is on Gamefound, so not on Kickstarter. All right, the next one that I want to talk about, and we're basically just going to go through these that are on Kickstarter based on how soon they are going to end. I just talked about Robinson Crusoe a second ago. It's ending in 8 days. So this one is, I don't see how you're not going out and backing it. This is a free kind of a deck builder style game. It's got a fantasy theme to it, but it is free. Their whole point is that they're trying to get it out there onto the market. All they want you to do is pay for shipping, which is £2. It's like $1 and change or something like that, US. Oh no, $3. Sorry, the conversion was a little different, but you know, it's not going to be a big game. It's going to be like a small travel game. But what's amazing about it is that it is small, but it's free. It is absolutely free. Why would you not jump on this right now? It's literally cheaper than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. This is their second attempt at the game, and their first attempt, they did, I think, actually, we're going to charge people for it, and they kind of revamped it. And this is the starter kit, so they're planning on adding to it down the road. But who wouldn't want a little, starter kit for free? Again, it's kind of got these deck builder elements to it. It is soloable. They're adding more and more cards via social stretch goals, so that's their whole thing, because they're not raising money really, is they're just trying to get more and more people to back this game, just to get their name out there, just to get it out there, and get their game into the world. So I think it's a really amazing concept by them. It's not a big game. It's not going to have miniatures and all that stuff. It's not going to have a lot of bling. It's really just going to be a small deck of cards in a tuck box. But it seems like it could be a really fun, unique game, and something that just going to be fun to arrive in the mail one day and be like, oh, I only paid $3 for this. Let's check this out. So again, this is Clash of the Deck, and supposedly they've been picked up by Clash of the Clans, and so I don't know how that's going to be working, but a major sponsor has decided to pick them up and integrate what is normally an app for your phone into and turn it into a deck building game in the future. So we'll see how that turns out. Again, this is a free Kickstarter soloable card game. All right, the next game on our list is 1815 Scum of the Earth Battle of Waterloo card game. This is from Tristan Hall. So Tristan Hall did the Gloom of Kilforth, Shadows of Kilforth, but he also has this, what he calls hold on, I have to remember, Hebs system. Historical epic battle system. Oh, here it is right here. I'm looking on the wrong side. Historic epic battle system. So these games that he has created, St. Elmo's, Pay, Scum of the Earth, Tears to Too Many Others, these are all based on historical events. And so the card play, the gameplay is very similar to Shadows of Kilforth or Gloom of Kilforth, but it's all real people. This is not fantasy tropes. This is not sci-fi. This is all historical. So the names of the people are real. They did really exist. And his whole goal here is to kind of have the game's structure in a way that it follows the true events of history. So if you are a big fan of Tristan Hall and his artwork, this is something you should check out. This is soloable, similar to Gloom of Kilforth or Shadows of Kilforth. But it is designed to be more head-to-head. So, but here you can see he's got this foes resource track for solo play. There is an additional solo rule book, so this isn't tacked on. He knows how to do solo play. But you can also see here that it's definitely meant to be a head-to-head game, and it is historical in nature. This is not one that I personally am backing, but one that I definitely looked over and paid attention to. I'm just not that much into the kind of historical games. I'm not a war gamer. I'm not a historical battle gamer. I don't really get into the games about panzer tanks and the the Battle of the Bulge or anything like that. So, but for some people, this is right up their alley. And if you have really enjoyed Shadows of Kilforth or Gloom of Kilforth and are interested into getting into something that has historical, that is historically accurate, or that is more real to life than the typical fantasy tropes, then this is definitely one you would want to check out. Because it's going to feel very much like what you are grown accustomed to. And it's again, all done by Tristan Hall. The artwork, the gameplay, similar to kind of how Red Raven and Ryan Lockett work. So that is 1815, Scum of the Earth, which is the Battle of Waterloo. All right, next up, with 15 days to go, is Lasting Tales. This is by Blacklist Games. So what they did last year was create their Fantasy Series miniature line. So Fantasy Series 1, they had a huge Kickstarter where they basically just produced a campaign of nothing but miniatures. And they were very popular, but that's all they were for. They were just miniatures. There was no gameplay attached. Most of the people that backed it are either hardcore painters, or they were people who run like D&D campaigns and they want those miniatures to be able to pull, oh, I want to throw a scorpion in my game today. I'm going to grab one of these scorpions from Fantasy Series 1 line. Then they turned around and did a horror series, but they also had, they did that along with their Dire Alliance Kickstarter. So what they have done now is essentially created a rule set for their fantasy miniature line called Lasting Tales. So this is essentially what people would call a miniatures game, a true miniatures game, where it's just a map with terrain, or you could just do a hexagonal map. But, you're going to be measuring out, distance from, this is like Star Wars Legion, or this is like Warhammer. This is what Warhammer is. So they're now competing in that space of, just kind of open terrain miniatures games. So this is not a style of game that I've ever gotten into. I definitely like my maps and my tiles and things like that. So again, this is not one that I'm backing. I have enough things to paint. But along with the Lasting Tales rulebook here, they are creating a second line of miniatures. So literally twice as many miniatures. I mean, I know that there were hundreds and hundreds of miniatures in the first series, and they're getting that way now with just a ridiculous amount of stretch goals added in here. So if you are a painter, if you're into the miniatures game, if you are, a big Warhammer fan and are wanting to get into something that's more fantasy driven than the sci-fi, definitely look this way. Or if you just want a bunch of miniatures to have fun with, maybe your kids are really into this kind of stuff, look this way. Because for the price point for what you get, you could just back the Fantasy Series 2 line for probably, $75. It's already up to 174 minis. So that is literally less than $2 a mini right now. And it's going to grow with the stretch goals. So for the price, if you're looking for miniatures, this is the place to go. Again, this is Blacklist Games, Lasting Tales. All right, next up here we have Sentinels of the Multiverse. Sentinels of the Multiverse has been a kind of a classic deck builder in the realm of deck builders. It's up there with like Clank and Dominion and Marvel Legendary. Ones that have just been around for a while, have a ton of content. What they're actually doing is kind of revamping everything. They're not starting over from scratch, but what they have done is created all new artwork for the game, but they've also gone through and cleaned up the rules, which for me, this is why I'm backing the game. This is a game that I always considered picking up because I love deck builders, but I had heard and I played the app and it was a little convoluted. It was a little bit just more than I wanted to deal with, so I just fell back on my classics like Clank or Marvel Legendary, and never really decided to invest in Sentinels of the Multiverse. So there are some people out there who feel like this is unnecessary because they have all of the regular content, they have all of the the add-ons and the expansions and things like that. They understand the game, and I don't think this game is really for them unless you are a hardcore Sentinels of the Multiverse. But I think what they're doing here is that they're opening the doors up to a whole new audience, because they have said, we have made it our mission to make this easier to play, quicker to set up, faster to get to the table, all the smoother, sleeker, and dare I say, just greater, is one quote from, who was that? Cult of the Gloom. So, this is one that I jumped on because it's one I'd already considered, and they hopefully addressed all of my concerns. So, again, this is a comic book style game. You're playing as superheroes. All of the artwork has that comic book cell feel to it. And they definitely have some elements that make it stand out apart from other deck builders like Marvel Legendary. So hopefully this will be a great revamp of a classic deck builder. So again, that is Sentinels of the Multiverse Definitive Edition. Right. These last few games I'm going to cover real quickly because they actually have not launched yet, so I don't have a whole lot to show you, but I did want to just bring up because they are coming soon and will probably launch before my next May video. So this next one is, I guess, an expansion, but I'm guessing will probably be kind of like its own standalone expansion in a way. But this is Marvel United XMen. So Marvel United just recently, or is probably still in the process of delivering their Wave 2 content to backers, which included a huge array of the kind of standard Marvel universe, everything from Spider-Man to Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, Infinity Gauntlet, and everything in between, and the Avengers, obviously. So what they're doing here is introducing the X-Men, which I am incredibly excited for. Come On Games has announced that at some point this year they're going to be doing a Masters of the Universe board game with miniatures, which I am probably more excited about than any other Kickstarter ever, but I don't have any other details on that other than it's coming soon. Second to Masters of the Universe and He-Man, X-Men would probably be my next favorite IP that I could think of, other than them going deep dive into some 80s Saturday morning cartoons, which I doubt will happen, but really excited for this because X-Men is an IP that has been covered in board games before, most recently by Fantasy Flight Games, and failed to always live up to expectations. The most recent one was a retheme of their Elder Sign game, where it's basically a Yahtzee style dice rolling game, and it just kind of fell flat for a lot of people, so I actually have not invested in it yet. This, however, if it's anything close to what Marvel United has been for me, where it's amazing miniatures that have been very fun to paint and just quick and easy, fun gameplay, then it's going to be another all-in back for me, because out of all of the Marvel content, X-Men is my favorite of the heroes. So be on the lookout for that. They haven't really given a definitive date of when this is going to launch, but coming soon. Next up is the Witcher Old World game. This one is the only one on the list that I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to be solo. It says competitive action adventure board game on it. But I don't see how they wouldn't have a solo aspect to it. I have never actually played the video game, but I know there's a lot of people out there who have. It's a very popular video game, and this is going to be their first attempt to turn that video game into a board game. But the video game is definitely a kind of a solo game, if I understand it correctly. It's not like Star Wars Battlefront or Call of Duty or anything like that, where you're going head-to-head with people. I feel like it's a solo game. Video game, why isn't it going to be a solo board game? But they're calling it competitive, so I am interested to see what this is going to offer. But if you are a big fan of the video game and are wanting to play something more analog, unplug for a little while, this may be something that you want to check out. finally, last on the list is another transition from a video game to a board game, and that is Monster Hunter World. Again, this is a, for some, very popular video game. It's not one that I've ever tried, but this one does say that it's going to be solo. It does say that it's going to, and Witcher was going to have miniatures too, but I think this one's really going to bank a lot on their miniatures in the game. We'll see. I have no idea what the gameplay is going to be revolved around other than capturing monsters, but I think they're really going to, Steamforged Games has, you know, this isn't their first foray in the Kickstarter world, so I think they're going to do a good job here. But again, if you are really into Monster Hunter World, the video game, this may be a great entry point for you into the board game sphere. So I just wanted to point this out as another big, probably Kickstarter coming up based on a video game IP. That's it for this month of April for crowdfunding in the board game sphere. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.